I haven't used Zoom in forever because we use Microsoft Teams at work. I feel like I'm back in like
What
COVID.
what
COVID.
what what do you do for work? We were just discussing this. We were like, we don't know.
It's an enigma, bro. I just let people think I'm a meathead, and that's it. No, I actually just started a new position at Amazon. I am a senior technical program manager in IT infrastructure. So, pretty much anything. There's two different ways I can go. You could be more on like the software and application development side of things, and I have done that. But I mainly focus on like the hardware side of things, which is like networking. Think routers, switches, servers, Wi-Fi access points, even mobility and cellular stuff as well. So, but yeah, so that's what I do.
It's
That's intense. What got you into that?
Honestly, my dad owns an electrical contracting company, and it started with electrical work, and then it started from there delivering power and fiber to like data centers and IT rooms, and then from there, like I kind of got more interested in the fiber side of things.
Hmm.
So then from there, pretty much just what happened is I got into telecom, which was mainly like delivering fiber, and then I got into the cellular game. And I got my first job like after leaving my dad's company because my idea was like, hey dad, let me go back to school, let me get my MBA, and then work for you until it's time for me to take it over. Keep the family in the business. And I don't know, he just wasn't about it, I guess. He's like, no, I got lucky, da da da. And I was like, I don't know, man. You've been doing it for 25 years. That don't seem like luck. But I didn't want to be the kid that was just handed like everything. So I was like, all
You
right, cool.
created your own
I'll
lane.
figure it out myself. And I started applying to jobs, which wasn't my first time doing, but like, with actual experience. I applied to jobs right outside of college. But I ended up working for my dad anyway. And then, yeah, I ended up getting my first gig at Disney and I moved to Orlando. That was my first time at Disney. I've done two stints at Disney. So, but yeah, and then I was in doing cellular mobility stuff for the first part of my career with a little bit of IT infrastructure stuff. And then there was one time when I was looking for a career change, not career change, but a new job. And I started considering career changes, like industry wise. And I just happened to be on LinkedIn and I just started noticing that IT infrastructure stuff was making like 50 to $60,000 more. And I was like, might as well start applying. And then from there, most of my positions were IT infrastructure based. There's a lot of layover because between the two like practices. So it wasn't like brand new to me. It would be kind of like going from bodybuilding into powerlifting. Like it's not going to take you that long to catch on to powerlifting if you
Right.
understand programming already. It's just a different style. So it's like the same thing. But yeah, I like it. I like it because there's like an intellectual side of me, so it stimulates me. It helps me appreciate the gym for my me time instead of it being like if I were to full time. I know sometimes I talk with people who their full-time job is training, their full-time job is coaching and posing. And then sometimes when it comes to their own lifts, it's like, man, it's hard to lock in for myself because I've been locked in for my clients all day. So, which I'm sure if my world ever did change and I had to do that, or if I felt it on my heart to do that, I would love to do that and I'd be blessed to do what I love for work. But for right now, I'm just appreciative that there is a separation for me, so that I think I'm a little bit more in a selfish part of my bodybuilding journey right now with aiming for my pro card and all those things. So it allows me to separate the two. I don't feel too bad if I have to be selfish because it's not like I have like 20, 30, 40 clients or something like that I also am like being selfish towards, if that makes sense.
Well, you get
Yeah.
to like take off your hat when you leave the gym and then put on your IT hat or
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it
I,
makes
exactly.
it makes it a little bit easier.
that's a
So
small
Yeah.
world. I actually interviewed at Amazon in Seattle like I don't know, must have been like 5 years ago now, 6 years
hmm
ago. But I'm in software as well. So I work with operations and safety. So if you ever
okay.
see a truck on the road going by with a dash cam, like making sure that they're getting the footage if a driver needs to get exonerated for an accident he didn't cause, or
Yeah,
telematics, GPS telematics, knowing like how efficiently their routes are, etc. But it's interesting that you mentioned this because the other day I was thinking about the duality of an athlete and being able to wear different personas, if you will. So,
yeah,
like when you're in the gym, you're a one kind of Christian, and then I'm sure
yeah,
when you're at your job, there's some differences in your personality. What would you
yeah.
say for you? Like when whether you're in your polo shirt, your button down, and you're like, at work, and then you go to the gym and you're, in your beater
In
and
the
you're sweating,
stringer.
and then obviously and also the different kinds of people you're with, right? Like the people I talk to at work every day are completely different people than I go see at fitness system. So,
Hmm.
um, is that easy for you or is it challenging? And have you even
It took
noticed it?
professional development for sure. It took, um, I hate to use the phrase like hiding certain sides of myself because I don't think you should really do that. But I think it's just knowing more so when to exercise what side of yourself, right? Reframe it in a different way, right? So I've realized I've had a lot of things happen in my life that have made me pretty well-rounded and I'm grateful for them. So it's, but not like sometimes you don't need to be well-rounded. You just need to be good at one thing in order to excel in, let's say, that conversation, right? So when I'm in the gym, I don't need to be talking like very professional and nerdy. In fact, a lot of the people at the gym, they probably just left their own corporate job. Like they want more real. So, I'm not going to use, I'm not going to be broing people at job, but when I'm at the gym, I can talk to people on like a normal level. Well, then when I'm at work, depending on the position or who I'm talking to and the dynamic in the superiority structure, I guess, right? Are we talking to someone that's under me that reports up to me? Am I talking to someone that I report to that's above me in management? Am I talking to someone internally? Am I talking to someone externally? There's all those things you have to consider. Um, and I used to try, I honestly found most success um, when I stopped trying to separate them. And I honestly, it's like that. I mean, like with religion, how they like have the Trinity and it's like three people in one, and like it's like a mind-boggling thing. It's almost like two in one. Like, yes, they're two separate personalities, but also I try not to separate them as much as possible because I've realized being the most real, genuine side of myself has gotten me more success, not only with the friends I've built in the gym, but even with my work relations. Like there's some people I still talk with from past jobs, and um, I think when you're like that, it's easier to have difficult conversations, whether it's with a client who isn't making progress or a friend who's getting ready for a show and they're behind schedule, or it's with someone who's underperforming on your team, right? If you can kind of sit them down and just kind of go like, yo, like,
What's up?
talk to
What's
them like
wrong?
a human instead of trying to force myself to fit into a role.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part about accepting that though was knowing not everyone is going to like me then, and I think you have to really drop that judgment of are people going to, if I'm myself at work and a little bit of the meathead slips through, are they not going to like me and judge me? You know what I'm saying? And I think as you start to get older, you kind of just start to not care what people think, and if you know you're a good person and you're a hard worker and you have good intentions, then like you shouldn't be scared. How they respond to you is going to say more about them than yourself.
Yep.
And I watched my work relationships just get better and better and better, and honestly, my career kind of took off when I started doing that. So it's funny because I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, before I used to try to like hide that I was a bodybuilder at work, especially because a lot of my work's remote. So many of my positions were remote. Um, and now it's like,
You're in the office
I just,
now?
am I in the office? No. So that's the thing with Amazon. The reason I was interviewing with them last year, I rescinded my application because I was going to have to move to DC or Seattle. And I just didn't want to do that. I was like,
You don't want to do that. You don't want to
nah,
do that.
no, I mean, I'm 30 now, bro. If I was younger, 25, 26, 27, go get 2 to 3 years on my resume at Amazon would be great. But right now, so I rescinded my application. Then actually, they reached out through a contractor. And because it's through a contractor, I'm able to be remote. So, which is awesome. Bodybuilding with my guy,
Yeah.
with the people on my team, they're like, wait, you're competing? They're like,
Yeah.
how tall are you? Why don't you weigh? What do you got to be? And like, they're engaged. And I think when you talk about it a little bit more confidently, then all of a sudden they start to their tone is like, I think people pick up the insecurity when you try to separate the two different versions of yourself too much. There has to be a little bit, but too
Well,
much.
look,
And then when I just
and
start naturally talking about it, like people like lean into it a little bit more.
yeah, I mean, I've noticed that, well, with remote work now, I think the office space has gotten a little more lax too. Like it's a little
Yeah.
bit less formal. When I used to
Yeah.
go in, obviously very different structure. And then as soon
Hmm.
as I went remote, I mean, I've been remote since 2020 when in COVID, but
Yeah.
like it's funny because I experienced the same thing where it was, okay, do I really share this about me? Are they going to judge
Hmm.
me? But then I noticed that everyone else was being a little bit more relaxed about their passions and their hobbies, and it actually became more hobby centric because when people are home, they're like, okay, share something about yourself when you meet people digitally, and then
Yep.
it's like, well, okay, well, this is a big part of my life, and they're gonna have to know. And
Yeah.
now I think my team said they're gonna live stream my show or something, so it's gonna be kind of funny.
That's so
But
awesome, bro.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if it's because remote, it's a byproduct of remote work, or if it's a byproduct of just as individuals we became more comfortable with being open about like our journeys. But it's, the judgment that I feared in the beginning part of my career, now it seems like doesn't really exist. And if they do have a judgment, it doesn't even cross my mind of whether they're doing it or not, because I look at that's a lack on their end, not on mine.
Yeah.
So.
What got you started on bodybuilding journey?
Um, so I was going to college. I went to college at UM down in Miami, and I was walking around campus, and I was always a smaller, nerdy looking guy, man. I was 130, 135 pounds freshman year of college, about 18, 19 years old, 135 pounds. And I always played sports, so I was athletic, but it didn't really pack a punch, you know what I'm saying? And I was just looked really young. And then you go to college and I see other guys walking around that are my age that got me by like 50, 40, 50 pounds, if not more. And they look like full grown men. And then, when you go to college, you're looking at the girls and you're like, how old are you? And they're like your age and they look like they're full grown women. And you're like, dude, I need to grow up. So that was like kind of initially what made me go to the gym is like I felt like really like small and tiny. And I just started doing it because I was like, I was excited to do it. I always told myself, once I'm in college, the gym's on campus. I have no reason to not get big anymore. Before it was always like when I was in high school, it was like, okay, I got to do this club. Then I got to do my homework. I had pretty good grades. So I got to study for my SAT. I did over 500 community service hours. Then any sports I played, there wasn't a lot of time to make for the gym back then. And then once I got in college, like there's a dining hall on campus, there's a gym on campus. There's no reason for me to ever have an excuse to not eat enough or work out whenever I want to. And that's what I did. In my first year lifting, I went from 135 to 175. And from there, that was pretty much, I was hooked. And I mean, that was getting like, I was getting ridiculous amount of steps in walking to and from class, from the dorms to class every day. There's a McDonald's right across from UM on US 1. I don't know if it's still there, but dude, I used to walk at least 3, 4 times. You want to talk about a hard gainer? Dude, I was still shredded to the bone 3, 4 times a week. I remember the order. I'd go to McDonald's, I'd get 3 Big Macs, two apple pies, and a Reese's Pieces McFlurry,
Yeah,
down it. And then I walk back and I go to sleep.
That's wild.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
metabolism.
that got me into it. Man, I remember those. It's so crazy. Now we're talking about like us going to win shows and going for our pro cards and stuff. And I look back at times like that, and it's like that's really that was the fun stuff. You know what I'm saying?
The
Like you're,
humble beginnings.
yeah, man. Like it really is the journey, not the destination. You know what I'm saying?
What was your first show?
UGP 2021. I took a really long time to do my first show because the picture that you guys used for the IG announcement, which
Yeah.
by the way, anyone who watches this, I look bigger now, so don't judge me. But
I was like,
Bro,
when I
bro,
saw it, I'm like, it didn't really look like you now.
I was trying to find a good stage shot of you, man, but most of your shots are in the posing room.
yeah,
So
yeah, no, you're good. I didn't care. That was my first show. That picture that you guys used, that was my first show. That was 2021 UGP. Um, and
That's
that was my first
solid.
show.
That's a
I took a
solid to start
while.
though.
I took a while to do my first show because I was just under the mentality of like once I start competing, I want. I think I have a lot of potential in the sport, and I want to go win. If I compete when I don't have the size yet, well, like something I think that for my mindset, I think I understood from a while, from a really early on in my bodybuilding career is like you lose a lot of weight and a lot of size when you get ready for a show.
Mhm.
So you need to realize that, and that's even with drugs, you need to realize that you need to probably look like you're big for your division or class if you want to do some damage before you go hop into a show. So there's two mentalities. It's either go get your first show first show or two, get better at it, see if you like it, learn about yourself, and then have a long off season, or just don't do your first show until you really think you're going to be able to do some damage. And with focusing on my career and a variety of other things going on, and honestly, there was quite a few preps in the beginning that I just didn't. execute on. And not only did I think I wasn't going to be as big enough, but I probably wasn't lean enough to step on stage anyways. And I ended up dropping them. And it wasn't because I was scared that I dropped him. I dropped him because I was embarrassed of I'm not stepping on stage like this. I messed up. I cheated too much. I didn't do enough cardio. I didn't do this, da da da. And that's part of becoming a better athlete too, I think, is being real with yourself. But by the time I did my first show, that was 2021 UGP. I really haven't had an off season since then. Which is why I want to get my pro card so bad this year, so I can get that 10-pound bump when you go pro in classic. I know I'm a lot bigger than that now, but at that time, at that time, it's really the only size I've really put on has been just from lifting and eating how I normally do. There hasn't really been a period of 3, 4 months or even 6 to 8 months where I've had a short or extended off season in a surplus on a good protocol. It was all the only time I've been in a surplus for the longest time was probably before this prep, and I was just on tier T for 6 months. I wanted to make sure my thyroid was good again, make sure my blood work was good again. It was never bad, but also moving from Orlando back here to South Florida, I wanted to make sure that my life was in check too. You don't want to go into a prep worrying about, oh, I'm starting a new job. Oh, I'm back in home city, like all these things. It's like, so once everything kind of the what do they say, the eggs line up or whatever.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
it
As soon
Everything
as
depends.
you're settled, yeah.
everything just lined up perfectly. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, all right. And, glory to God, man, where I was 6 to 8 months ago, I didn't think I'd be in this situation now. And I think that's why I'm just so locked in right now for this year. I think every previous version of me that stepped on stage is not even going to hold a candle to what I bring this year. And I mean, you guys have seen me in person. I think you kind of we're already starting to see it in the gym. There's sometimes I look at myself in the mirror, and I don't mean this with any arrogance. It's just like, man, we moving this year. I still got 10 and a half weeks, and I look leaner than some people that are competing in 3, 4 weeks. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like I don't take that as a let off the pedal type mentality. I don't take that as a I'm great mentality. I take it as a I should have gotten my pro card a year or two ago, and if I don't get it this year, potential is an insult. I think I've said that to all three of you. So there's a point in your career where potential is a compliment, and there's a point in your bodybuilding career where potential is an insult. And I'm at the point where potential is an insult. I should have done this 2 to 3 years ago, to be real. So this is
Well,
the
listen,
year to do it.
listen, timing. Everyone has a different timeline.
Yeah,
I do think that you want to be smart about when you prep, but at the same time, there's so many athletes out there who will take any excuse to not
yeah,
be able to finish their prep. Like sometimes you're gonna have to move during prep. Sometimes you're gonna have to have a work project in prep. Sometimes there's
amen.
things that are gonna happen, and you're just gonna have to suck it up. I mean, there's an IFBB pro Rachel Daniels who we're gonna have on soon, and who's talking about how, you know, sh there's a lot of, I'm not gonna say it here, but she went through like probably 5 things that if any one of those happened to any one person, like they probably
Mhm.
would never compete within a year. So, um,
Yeah,
but it sounds like you've had a pretty good balance of like your work life, being able to manage and make sure that you're getting what you want out of that, and then also, but keeping your eye on the prize with bodybuilding. Have you stayed with the same coach the entire time, or has that been something that's fluctuated with the? Oh no, I think you coach yourself, right? Has that been the?
there's been periods there's been periods where I've used coaches, and there's been periods where I've been self-coached. So
Yeah,
I'll say most of my career has been self-coached, but I gotta give a lot of credit to, do you guys know Cameron Cheek? Do any of you know
I know
Cameron?
that name for sure.
So I worked with him a while ago. Him and this is before Cameron and a few other coaches went to Camp Jansen, which I think now they're starting to leave Camp Jansen after he's getting out of bodybuilding and everything that came out around that. But
Mhm.
I worked with Cameron, an individual named Paul, and an individual named Paul Serafini, I think is his last name, and they kind of like they kind of two teamed the whole coaching thing, and it was a good experience. I think I had like a good 8 months to a year with them. It was back in 2020, 2021, where I put on a lot of size. I learned a lot about PEDs. I learned a lot about dieting. I mean, I knew a lot going in there, but then watching someone else with knowledge make the adjustments, um, I think I never really had to ask why he was doing it. I knew why he was doing it, but I think with dieting, it's never. it's never one or two, right? Like there's a million ways to skin a cat. And sometimes you'd make diet adjustments that it wouldn't have been what I would done, but then I would have to look at it and go like, well, just because it's not what I would have done, it's still moving the direction and getting the results that I would want. So, and this was probably the biggest thing I've had to work on as an athlete is coachability, because I think sometimes when clients don't know anything, they're really easy to coach because they believe in you wholeheartedly. When the athletes start to learn a lot on their own about training and diet, now they're asking you a bunch of questions, which is fine. You want to inform them, but then sometimes they hit you with the like it's almost like you got to like check yourself too. Is this a good question or are they questioning me? And then like your pride and ego starts to get in the way too. So I started to do that a lot. And I remember, at one point Cam was just kind of like, dude, do you trust me or not, man? Like just because it's not what you would do, but I learned not a lot just about diet and nutrition from the both of those, but just a lot about how to be a good athlete. Not even the time that I was with them, but also like after I left, we didn't leave on bad blood. It was just like I wasn't competing anytime soon and work was busy. I was like, dude, I'm not doing a show for at least a year. Like, I'll come back when it's time. But, and then even in retrospect of my time with them, as I got better at bodybuilding, I would look at the things that I did wrong to get better the next time. So, and then for the most part, I was coached by myself from then until 2024. 2024 last year, I went into Thai Pope. I won Thai Pope last year and I won that show. There's a story behind that show. But then after that, I was supposed to go to North Americans. There's about 6 to 8 weeks left until North Americans. I needed to increase my conditioning and I knew it. I went into Type Hope around 60, 70%. It was my first show in over a year. I just needed to requalify. I was focused on North Americans. I was like, I kind of went in not at 100%, which is not a good mentality. Anyone listening, you don't do that. I don't know why I did it, but it was just kind of like, I just need to go get nationally qualified. I don't care about winning.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah, pretty much.
Disclaimer. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just kind of like, whatever, just let me get top two in my class, and then I'll go um and then I'll go and I'll lock it up after Ty Pope, and I'm nationally qualified to go and go to North Americans. Yeah, so I don't know how, why, or what, or maybe I did prep better than I thought I did, and I looked better than I thought I did, but I ended up winning not just my class but the overall at Ty Pope. Uh, but I'm always self-reflective, self-critical, and I'm real with myself. I'm not a big fan of like I appreciate the compliments from everyone and stuff, but I'm always one like okay, but I'm not where I want to be yet. What can I get better at? And I immediately look at the pictures. The reason there's no stage shots from Ty Pope is I didn't like any of them. Not because they were bad pictures, just because I didn't like the way I looked, because the standard I hold myself to be honest. So it's just pictures from my friends that got taken from far away and stuff. And I knew immediately I need to bring up the conditioning. And I was already starting to feel mentally fried. I was working at Disney during the time up in Orlando. And
Yeah, you get burned out. You're
Yeah, so there was
you're too
another one of
high.
my buddies. Yeah, one of my buddies that did the show. He had a coach. His name was Tyler Garceau. I actually still keep in touch with him. He's an amazing dude. He's a man of God as well. Um, we just got along great, and he did a really good job. But my thyroid was just so shot at the point. I think the final 2 weeks we were down to like we were somewhere like 1,500 calories, 2 hours of cardio. And I was like, dude, I'm eating like a bikini girl and I'm like three times the size. Like, what's going on? And then I just woke up. It was the first day of peak week or the day right before peak week started. And I was feeling sick. And I just ended up with getting a sinus infection, which is why I didn't do North Americans last year. I mean, I was looking diced, but I ended up getting a sinus infection. I noticed the scale started going up, and that's when I remember sending the message, but I couldn't even write I sat looking at my phone for about an hour because I didn't want to type it out because if I typed it out, that means it was real. I don't know if that makes sense. So I was like, how do I tell him I can't do it? Like, it's almost like I wanted him to say it for me because I was like, wow, am I actually, it was fear of returning back to that previous version of me that always dropped shows. You know what I'm saying? That always like, oh, I'm not ready yet. Like you were talking about Alex, of like, don't find any reason just to drop a show. In hindsight, that's kind of dumb. Like, bro, you had a sinus infection. It's like a pretty good reason not to, go fly on a plane and go
Yeah.
compete. But I remember texting him like, dude, my weight's going up. Like I've been crushing the plan and I'm feeling sick. And I waited all day to not say anything, and now it's 2, 3 a.m. and I'm feeling worse, bro. It's not getting better. And that's when we had to make the call. He's like, I'm thinking what you're thinking. Like, at that point you start worrying about your health, and you
So
gotta know.
why didn't you, when you cleared up, just go into a national later in the year,
Um,
like Texas or something?
One, I was on prep from February, and it was all, so if I did Texas, I would have been on prep from February all the way till
November, December.
November. Yeah. So,
Well, you could have had a period of time in there to kind of keel out, even out a little bit. I mean, that's like when
yeah, yeah,
some guys will qualify for Olympia in like February, March, and then they'll use like obviously that middle
a
time
little like a
to,
mini bulk until they
yeah,
re back like
yeah.
a clean cut. Yeah, I know what you're saying. There's also other things going on in my life, personal. I left my job at Disney to start a business with, at the time, someone that I considered a very good friend, and he was like a little brother to me. Lost a lot of money, uh, got scammed, kind of had to refigure that part of my life out. It wasn't an ideal situation to hop into a show. You know what I'm saying? So that's actually one of the reasons I came back to South Florida was because after that happened, I kind of was like set back to zero, and I really needed to figure out. Okay, I left Disney to do, you left week one to do two, and then two doesn't work out, so you're not doing one or two now. Like and then I was already in that mindset of starting a business. Then it's like, okay, do I try to do something like this on my own? Do I just go back to my career? So it took a lot of humility. It took a lot of praying and a lot of just time to just figure out what the next step was for me was. And that's why, at the beginning, I kind of said, I'm just very grateful to even be competing this year. And one of the reasons why I think I'm the best version of myself this year is because of what I went through. Well, a lot of the things I've went through, but especially last year when you've kind of lost a lot, you're grateful for the stupidest things, and when you're grateful for the stupidest things, you're like, imagine how grateful you are for the big things,
Yeah.
and I consider this a really big thing that's about to happen for me. I mean, it's something I've been praying on. It's something I've been working towards since, when you start lifting, you look up to pros like, wow, they're pros. And now it's like, I kind of have to switch my mentality. I can't look at pros and go, wow, they're pros. Cause like in reality, I should be one. So I have to start viewing myself like a pro. I have to start acting myself like a pro. I got to start working out like one, eating like one. There's none of this amateur level mentality, actions, workouts, cardio sessions, anything like that anymore. But it just has kind of naturally happened. And I think what ended up things happen in your life for a reason. And as bad as it was what happened, I'm grateful it happened because it just made me a better person. It made me a better athlete. And I just think this year is going to be, in the Bible it says those who sow in tears will reap with joy. So I did my sowing, and 2025 is going to be the year of reaping. So, and we're going to take it all. So
Well, listen, you had to dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Yeah.
exactly.
And if you are acting like an amateur, you're probably training like an amateur. You're
Yep.
probably, you're not a true professional is always learning, and we talk about on this podcast a lot, being a student of the game.
Yeah.
Every guest we've had has really shown us that they're proactive. Like even you taking over your own prep and really taking charge of your own schedule, like you're being proactive about what works and what doesn't work for you. Um, but I used to play international lacrosse, right? And I remember I could understand why some people would want, or a lot of people would want to get signatures and autographs from some of the pro players.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like, if I were to ask this guy for his autograph, but I'm supposed to play him the next week. Like
I know where you're going with it. Yep.
what does that say about me? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't get me wrong, we're human, right? So like if I'm walking up and I see a certain player that I've followed since I was a kid and I've really admired him, that's great. And it's okay to have that moment, but there's something about the act of going up and can I get your autograph, can I get your picture that just didn't sit right with me and I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it's very interesting to me because you're right. Like if you're kind of admiring these guys to past a certain extent, like at what
Hmm.
point are you just, I mean, a phony? Like when are you gonna step up to the plate and be that person
At what
yourself?
point are you putting them
A
Pedestal.
pedestal.
on a pedestal? You know what I'm saying? And if you're putting someone there, like, why? Why can't you do that? Why not me?
Yeah.
If not me, then who? So, but I agree with that 100%. It's funny you say that. At fitness systems, since they've opened, um, they've had quite a few big name bodybuilders go through there. And there's only one that I walked up to and I introduced myself to and I said hi. I didn't even ask for an autograph. All the other ones I saw them, I've nodded at them, I've had conversations with them, but it wasn't like when there was this line to go. And I'm not trying to condemn anyone that's done that. You know what? Go for it. If you want that, go ahead. But for me, it was like I don't need like I don't know. I don't view these people as like some great thing. Like I respect you for your hard work and you're setting the bar for my sport. Thank you. It's my job to live up to that. It's a more of a respect thing, not as an like an idol thing. There is one person I went up to though. Can you guys want to take a guess who you think it was? Who's been at our gym?
Yes.
I mean, there's so
Yes.
many.
Well, give us a division.
Oh, no,
Was
that's gonna make it easy. Bodybuilding.
No. Give us a
it
division.
John Del Rosa or the owner of the gym?
No, no, no. I mean, I'm close
No.
to John. I'm close to John, but no, no, not him.
What division?
Although shout out to John. I think he is the most
He
He's
said
the
he said
best.
about he said
humble
about
kind but determined person I've met. Like shout out to him. I think if pros handled themselves like him, the world like the sport would be such a good place. I mean, it is a good place, but it would
No,
be
John is the
yeah,
epitome
like
of true sportsman.
yes.
I mean, you would never, besides his incredible physique, you would not know he was an Olympian unless you pretty much asked him or you saw his picture because the guy is just acting like just a humble, hardworking dude in there, and he's
Yeah.
accomplished a lot. So, but okay, so who you fanboying? Give it to us.
Phil Heath, best of all time, beats Ronnie. He's the
Oh,
GOAT.
he was
Don't
at.
at me.
Did he go to fitness system?
Phil Heath did go to Fitticisms a few times. He was living down here, I think, for a little bit, and then he I think he
Oh, look,
moved
at the end of the
here.
day, there's also there's tier lists. So like Phil Heath, I would say is in a little bit
He's
of a
a
different boat.
legend, yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah.
but still, and there's also a difference. I would say going to an expo, waiting 2 hours in line to get a picture that 700 other people are getting, by the way. Like,
Shout
and
out.
or in person, like I'm actually all for it. Like if you're gonna
Yo,
go up to
clip it, post this one. Let them get comments on this because all of Instagram does this.
But I mean, true. But Phil Heath, right? Like, or someone, and you see them in person, and you're actually having an
Yeah,
organic conversation, man to man. That's a little
yeah,
bit different than because if you were to go see Phil Heath at an expo out of 700 people, he's not going to remember you, right? You'll
yeah,
remember it, but he may remember a conversation you had with him in person. Like, you never know. So,
yeah. I remember I went up to him and I went up to John and I said hi because I always say hi to John as much as I can, just out of respect for who he's been to me. But Phil was there. I was like, "Hey, Christian, nice to meet you." He's like, "Phil." I didn't start off as like, "Oh, you're my." He introduced himself to me as Phil, not I'm Phil Heath. That okay, I'm Christian. Oh, I'm your fan. And I just went like, "All right, listen." But then I did switch a little bit to fanboy. But I was respectful. I was like, "Listen, I don't normally do this because I don't like the fanboy." I said, "But there's only one bodybuilder that I've ever set at the background on my phone, and it was you when you won. I think it was the 26 or 2017 Olympia." Where he was wearing the purple trunks and where he went on one knee with the we went on one knee with the head over the sandow, and that was my background. And I said, outside of that, be like, I'm not a fan, but for you, bro, I said I love the way, I love Phil's physique, but also like I kind of like I like that he embraced I'm not an underdog, I'm favored, and you can hate me for it, but it's not just everyone wants to say it's genetics. It's not just genetics. It's hard work too,
hey,
And I think there's a lot of people who are naturally good at this sport.
he's a good announcer. He's a good commentator.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people in this sport, they get a lot of hate when they make progress faster than other people. And they just go, oh, it's just genetics, or oh, they just respond to drugs well. And it's like, dude, like there's so many, like, dude, I could pay for your whole cycle and you could take twice as much as me and you'll never look like me. You know what I'm saying? I think people underestimate how much work is involved in this. Like, yes, you got to have the genetic potential, but like, bro, I see a lot more people go farther that have mediocre genetics and top tier work ethic than people who have top tier genetics and mediocre work ethic.
Yep.
The
Get what I'm
thing
saying?
I don't know if you watch Cutler Cast, but he had Phil Heath on. I think it was that podcast, and Phil was talking about his nickname, The Gift, and
Mhm.
how people were thinking that it's a super cocky nickname to have. And he said it was actually completely misconstrued. And what The Gift meant was that he had something to share with the world, and it was on him to be able to do that. And for him, and I'm paraphrasing, so I don't know if I'm explaining exactly right, but it was a flip in
Yeah.
the mindset of what that name actually meant. And that did make sense to me because I was like, wait a minute, I did think that was kind of cocky, but then it's
Yeah.
like it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure he said things that were cocky before. I
Oh,
don't
he
think
did
he's perfect,
100%,
but
100%.
for the
That
most
was the
part,
persona, yeah.
yeah. So, but it's funny how you said when you're talking about that nickname, the gift, it's almost like I can talk about faith on here, right? Openly, right?
Of
Yeah,
course,
okay.
Yeah,
man.
go.
So, like everyone, like they talk about when you have God's blessing on you, or like God's anointing on you,
Yeah.
and you could say like, I feel like I'm anointed to do this, and like some people might take that like, oh, you think you're better than other people, and other people who are familiar with the Bible and have a relationship with
Yep.
God, they'll get what you're saying. I feel like it's that same misconception. It's like you saying you have a gift, or like this is a gift to you, and like this is like your responsibility. Is like complete. Is like very similar to saying like I feel like this is God's anointing, for me. You know what I'm saying? I find that parallel kind of similar. And I think everyone was kind of like viewing it as Phil is everyone else's
Full of
gift to
himself,
society
yeah.
when he really viewed it as like this is a gift to me and it's on me to it's a gift I have, and I'm blessed to have it kind of deal.
Perception
Well,
is everything.
it goes back to what you're talking about, people's insecurities, though. You
Yeah.
know, like once you walk in God's word, once you walk in the faith, and you're that confident in yourself, and
Yeah.
because you know that God's got you, and
Yeah.
it's not a cocky thing at all.
No,
It's
no, I
just
think it's also like I was watching a sermon one time and he said, wisdom and confidence, they don't come from age. They come from how many seasons you've been through.
trials and
And then
tribulations.
he's
Yeah,
like, how much seasoning do you have? You know what I'm saying? And I think it's just, you could say, like, I got a lot of seasoning. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like KFC, what is it, 21 spices or whatever,
Hello.
like the
21. Yeah,
KFC formula or something. It's like, I
the
got a lot of
sazon.
seasoning. And the only reason I am the way I am, where I'm able to go into my workplace and be like, I don't really care. Or like I'll go into the gym and I don't really care. I think my main focus, my mindset has really determined as honestly as I've my faith has gotten stronger, so has my focus in the gym. And I think they go hand in hand. Discipline in your faith and discipline in the gym, they go hand in hand. And I kind of walk into the gym and, my mindset, it is to crush my workouts, but my mindset is now to not just try to be oh, this guy's going to go pro this year. Oh my God. Like it's also to be like, I just want to be kind to people. Like you got to remember a lot of people there don't compete and a lot of people they're going to be there and they might have had a really bad day at work, or they may be having a fight with their wife and they're considering divorce, and they're at the gym to work on themselves and make themselves feel better. And then all of a sudden they don't wipe down a machine, and then you go up to them and you give them attitude. Bro, just wipe the machine down yourself or ask them politely. There's just so many things that like my mindset has shifted as I've gotten closer with God that it's made me like the gratefulness thing. And then also just like
Consideration. Yeah,
it's
simple
just like, dude, like
consideration.
if you're
Yeah,
trying to actually walk like a man of God, like you're not supposed to be getting frustrated at everyone that doesn't do everything you're supposed to do in a gym. You
a
know,
hundred.
like you're
Or in
human.
life,
There's gonna be things that
in
get you
life.
mad, right? But
Yeah,
like for the most part, bro, like if I never told people and I never talked about God, by my actions, would you know that I believe in God? Would you know that I'm a good guy? That's like the biggest testament to where
a
your
hundred
heart
percent.
posture is at.
Yeah, your spirit, man.
I think
That's 100% true, man. I
Yeah,
feel
you
that.
go, you look at my post from Ty Pope, and before I posted, I was a little bit where I go, "Oh, there's going to be too much Jesus for people," and then I went like, "What kind of question is that? Like, I don't care." And those were the first person I thanked. I said, "Thank you, Jesus," because it was like, you know, women, unless you're married or even if you're married these days, right, you might get divorced, but women are going to come and go out of your life. Jobs may come and go out of your life. Friends may come and go out of their life. There's one person who isn't going to go in and out of your life, and it's
Jesus.
God,
Yeah.
and he's there. And when he's not there, it's not because he left you, it's because you walked away from him, and he'll be
Hmm.
waiting there when you come back. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't, I wouldn't have, dude, I remember last prep, it got to the point, and it sounds so corny because it's like so physical and like of a not important thing to kind of like pray about. When I get hungry on prep and I really want to cheat, you sitting there on the couch watching your TV show, you open Uber Eats, just seeing what's open and available in your area because you're so hungry. And then it's like I just put my phone out, I start praying, bro. I'd be like, God, no. I said, like, you've given me the ability to do this. Like, I need to execute. If I'm going to talk about you to people, I'm a representation of you. And representation of man of God is a hard worker, right? I don't want to get on stage and not look conditioned again. Like things like this is what I tell myself. And I literally prayed my way through the hunger. And it's hard for me to make weight. I gotta go all the way down to 202.
look, I think as someone who's not religious myself, I still
Yeah.
align with a lot of what you're saying because at the end of the day, and this is something that I think our society in general needs to understand. Your
Yeah.
point about not everyone's going to do everything the way you want it, or like the frustrations. Our society is so
Hmm.
quick to combat and stuff. You know, G and Chris and I have gotten so close since we competed together. We literally were competitors how we met.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all have different kinds of beliefs or way of looking at the world. And yet there's something that is driving us to hang out together and build a business together. And there's
Yeah.
some reason why we're connecting with people like you in the gym, right? With a similar mindset. And we all have different backgrounds. But I'm curious what you think it might be besides,
Mhm.
you know, God, because it could be a driving force. Everyone has their own driving force. For you guys, it's your faith. It's strong rooted faith. What else do you think there is that draws people that even if they're different and one's like religious, one's not religious, but can still collectively come together and have that positive, patient mindset?
That for me first, and then you, Chris.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm
My
just
answer
curious
to
to hear
this.
your thought on that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's
I
So
would
like
like to
I
answer. I would like to answer that. I would
how
like
can
to
people
answer that
so
one too.
different, right? Like how
you
can
don't,
people
or
so
I'll do it. I can do it. I think so. Here's what I'm gonna say, and it's gonna be a religious answer, so you might not like it, but
no, 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 no. And it's not that you're wrong. It's I'm just so curious how we can still bond
Perspective.
so closely,
yeah,
and yet we might have all different sources of our faith or spirituality or religion. Yet there's still a common thread that might make you more similar to me than someone who is very religious but completely different and would get so
yeah.
mad at someone at the gym. You know what I'm saying?
So I think with me being a Christian, I think and a lot of my beliefs being based in the Bible. I think if you look at the let's try to remove the religious context from it, and let's just look at the Bible as a book. There's a lot of good morals, values, and standards generically in the Bible that are going to lead you to fruition and joy and peace and community, regardless of whether you view it as a book from Christ or just a book with a lot of life lessons in it. And I think there's an innate drive in humans for a sense of community and for a sense of
Togetherness,
I
right?
think joy, yeah, I think joy comes obviously everyone wants to be happy and be full of joy and like laugh and all that. And I think people underestimate how much of that comes from the people you surround yourself with. I
Hmm.
think I think bodybuilders honestly probably need to hear this more than anyone. I think since it's such a selfish sport, we lock ourselves in a box during prep so much, and it's me. I need to be strong enough. I need to be this, And to quote a Bible, Galatians 6:2 talks about bearing each other's burdens, meaning, it's important to have good community because when you can't do it all alone, there's a reason that there's a community behind you, and I think that is very evident in bodybuilding. And I think even if you take the most A-type, Sigma male, whatever you want to call him, that's like, oh, me, I'm just built different type man. I guarantee you he has at least a few friends that when things get tough for him, financially, emotionally, physically, he can go and talk to. And I think that's probably why all four of us are on the call right now, why you three are building a business together, because there's an innate drive in humans for community. And I think maybe not a lot of people want to admit that because it's their pride and their ego trying to make it seem
I
like
agree.
I did this on my own. I started from nothing. And it's like, dude, maybe you did a lot on your own, but I guarantee you didn't do all of it on their
It,
own.
it,
There's
Yeah.
it
probably
is
one person
community.
along the way that spoke life into you. There's one person along the way that gave you a piece of advice, so, but yeah.
I agree. I think community is definitely a strong center. It's like your compass, right? Like you go
Yeah.
towards where you define a community. I
Hmm.
think for me, I would say if I had to pick one trait, one characteristic of a human that if I didn't see them, like you know the show Love is Blind, Friends of Blind, right? Like who I would just get along with and like want to call my friend
Yeah,
is
yeah,
empathy. Is that person empathetic? If they're empathetic, I guarantee you they're probably gonna be able to have a seat in this room right now and get along
yeah.
with us.
So
But
let me take
that's
it a step
just
further.
yeah,
What do you define as empathy, though? Is it just being emotional and sensitive and in tune to your emotions, or
no.
is it? I think. Let me add a layer of depth to that. It's empathy, but with honesty. Because empathy without honesty means when you're going through stuff, they'll just tell you what they want to hear because they feel
What
bad
you
for
want to
you.
hear, yeah.
And
I'll
I
tell you
don't think
what.
any of us on this call just want to hear things we want to hear. I want
Yeah.
to hear someone like, dude, I feel bad for you, and this sucks. But you know what? I'm gonna tell you something right now. You're failing. You're in the wrong. You need to do better. You know what I'm saying? So it's like empathy, but
Yeah.
with honesty.
I would say empathy is the ability to when if someone else is going through a hard time, it's your ability to actually feel those emotions as if you were that person.
Yeah.
Because if not, then you're just you're pretending.
Yeah.
Maybe subconsciously, but there are some people that they when they see someone else go through pain, it's not creating the same pain signals in themselves.
Yeah.
If something bad happens to Chris or G, I would feel an actual pain that would replicate what I would actually feel if it happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
seeing
understand what you're saying.
a
Like that's my
counterpoint.
boy. Like, and he
So
just had this happen to him.
it's
Like,
almost like the mirror effect. Like maybe, and this might be where, even if I'm not religious, we see eye to eye because in religion, if I'm not wrong, there's a sense of togetherness in one, right? Like we're all
yeah,
part of something bigger.
body of Christ.
And
Yeah.
and if I am saying empathy is one of my biggest, like most valued traits, this probably means I'm aligning in certain areas that you guys are.
Yeah. Agreed.
And
Yeah,
why
and
can't this happen more often?
The
People sit in the
Bible,
room
the
and actually
Bible calls
agree.
it, the Bible will call it tenderheartedness. That's what the
so
Bible refers it to. Tenderheartedness.
Well,
What did you say? Why can't this happen more often?
Well,
With,
I'm just saying, like it's in the world, it's like you either agree with someone or you don't. You're a conservative, you're a liberal, and you have to sit in separate rooms. And it's like,
yeah,
I was,
they don't want you to, they want you to hate each other. Because, I mean, I'm not
division,
going to go
yeah,
down the
right.
rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, but
Yeah.
the more divided we are, the easier we are to conquer. I'll leave it at that. So,
also belief too.
yeah,
When you start to believe in something bigger than yourself, it's like even if you're not religious, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Alex, you have to believe in something more than you you're capable of, that's gonna take you the distance. And I think that that alone will, carry you. And it's interesting about how he asked about the community aspect because I used to think about how I always used to pray for like and ask God like because I always had these ideas of going on YouTube and making a podcast and doing all that because bro, I spent years like since I was a little kid,
hmm
I spent years watching bodybuilding and all these people coming up from like Christian Guzman and Alpha Lead and
hmm
and to see where they're at now and I never had the right people around me to get me started, and coincidentally enough right after breaking my leg in that major car accident and not knowing how I was going to get back on stage again, but when I did finally get back on stage again and I won my first overall ever and I stood next to the two people on this podcast in that like in my lineup, like in my class,
That's good.
and then we became
And
best
smoked us,
friends.
and smoked
No, we
us,
we
and
we
smoked
met
us.
we met afterwards, bro. We
He
yeah,
met
left
we
that
met.
part out.
afterwards.
Well, so
We didn't
Chris
even
and
meet
I,
at the show. We met after.
Yeah.
Chris,
That's
Chris,
why talk
Hey, I
about
beat you.
uh,
connection and like I don't think anything's coincidental. That's
I
why I
mean,
believe
Yeah.
there's
I
something
mean,
higher.
Chris and I met backstage a little bit, and Chris was telling me about his dark sport journey and how they invited him out. Gee, I remember I gave him a dap up like right at the end when to give him a congrats after we were like, we know this fucking guy was winning the show. Like, come on. Like, I was like,
Okay.
congrats, brother. And that's yours. And you're just like, oh, thanks, man. I think he completely forgot. And I DM'd him after that. But like, it's wild. He looked freaking good that show, though. That was
Yeah.
your show, man.
When you looking to compete this year? End of the year, or are you gonna wait till 26?
No, the end of the year, I'm gonna do UGP again.
All right.
UGP
Okay. Okay. National show. National show. You shooting for a national show this year?
Caribbean.
Caribbean.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Caribbean, Mr. Caribbean, it's coming.
Yeah.
The
That's the
Caribbean.
Bahamas one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I got
That should be
unfinished.
fun. Danny did that one.
Yeah, I was
I
working
was
it,
supposed to
and
be there, bro, but we got unfinished business, so we coming back.
yeah,
Yeah, it was
I was
great.
working security there, and Danny was there, and G was supposed to go. But hey, look, timelines aren't always the way you want them to be, but you best believe he's getting his pro card this year. Best
Yeah.
believe.
Yee.
So, but G, I commend him a lot because he's got a lot of athletes now, and it's a lot of pressure, right? Because a guy like G is going to care just about as much as about his athletes as himself, and it's going to be certainly a challenge for him to go through it for the first time with this kind of roster. But I know he can do it, and he's got the right athletes to help him do it. So,
And the community and the right community, right?
yeah, exactly.
I think, I think, I think you have a lot of praise report real quick. I think you have a lot of humility, and that's playing to your advantage. I think maybe it's because of some of the things you've been through, and also, like for example, breaking your leg, and you're put in that situation of, am I ever even going to be able to do this again? So then, when you're able to do it again, you do it with a newfound humility, with a newfound appreciation, and you're like, you really don't know when the next, like, when, I'm
Be
sure
it.
your mind went to the idea of you never know when the like, bro, how many days do we have left walking? How many days do we have left alive? You don't really know, so you might as well make the most of it for the next
Yep.
few months, few years, because uh, who knows how quickly life can change in one event, you know?
Yeah.
It can
Yeah, man.
change. I
But
mean,
but that's the stuff that, for me, from because I suffered a brain injury back in 2022 while
Yeah.
being a police officer. And
Hmm.
when I got hit by a car and I blacked out, I saw a bright beam of light, and that's when I felt like, hey, God gave me another, chance to be out here and, just live life. And
Yeah.
just like you said, you see life from a different lens,
Yeah.
and
Like,
the gratitude and just
I
you
think
got
I,
a different type of like chip on your shoulder where you
yeah.
don't let the small stuff phase you, and it's just like
Hmm.
you keep pushing forward.
What I say, I think what I said, I think when you've tasted the dirt at the bottom of the valley, the second you're out of the valley and you're working towards the mountaintop, is everything along the way is tastes so sweet because you're used to tasting the dirt at the bottom of the valley. And I think a lot of character building is done down there, you know? You're
Yeah,
molded down there, you know?
you know, I
I truly think you're made into the person you're supposed to be before you're ever
yeah,
on that stage or platform, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
act as if, right? Like become that person, be that person, have the character traits that you'd want to have holding that trophy when you're a pro,
Yeah.
way ahead. And then by the time you're just, what do they say? You're supposed to, be prepared so that when your time comes, you can execute. You
Yep.
can't force when that time is going to come, but you could certainly be prepared for when that time does come, right?
Yeah.
So like for G, for example, like he doesn't know when his pro card chance is going to come, but he's doing everything in his power to be ready for when that opportunity comes and he can grab that card. Um, I mean, for me, I have a really bad back. I have multiple herniations and scoliosis, and playing lacrosse didn't help, and I was lifting like a meathead all my life. So I'm probably gonna have to have back surgery at the end of the year. And I just remember like the past 4 years have been miserable because I'm constantly going back to doctors to figure out they treat me like a guinea pig. I'm getting nerve ablations, I'm getting all these different injections,
Yeah.
and I get this horrific nerve pain. And I get so down when it happens because, like, as an athlete, your identity is to be functional, be able to be powerful. And I never feel more weaker than when I get out of bed and I can't walk, or I can't take my dog out to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
But then I started like just reaching out to other people in the sport who are like-minded, been through similar things. And the more conversations I had with them, the better I felt. Like this one pro that we're gonna have on, her entire back is basically stapled up. I mean, as a kid, and she's arguably the best poser in the league. And then she had a lacerated arm from a dog attack and can't feel her hand right now. And she's still gonna go to Pittsburgh Pro. So then I started thinking to myself, shut up, stop feeling bad for yourself. Like other people go through it. But I think what does help is like being real with yourself, being vulnerable, and being able to connect with people that have had similar traumas.
Yeah.
Iron sharpens iron, they say, right?
Yeah. That is what they say.
Like, gee, I'm sure when you had, when you were sitting at hospital when we came to see you after your operation, like there's probably a time where you felt down on yourself, but then, he dusts himself off and he's rack pulling like 60 plates, like a few weeks later. So,
Thank God you're can see the play.
so
That's why I
I mean,
can't find
I
it
mean,
around the gym.
how was that for you mentally? Like we're going through that second surgery.
Um, I- it was different because I had already been through the worst. Like the pain that I felt the first time was the worst pain that I ever felt in my life. And then I had other unfortunate events happen afterwards, and I think when I got the surgery in the beginning of this year, I was just like, I've already been through so much in my life that this really doesn't phase me. Like I'm literally gonna bounce back better than I've ever done before. And as soon as I got back home, like the way my leg felt post surgery, there's a night and day difference from the first time. So and the way I've been progressing is crazy fast. So I'm very excited for the season. I like to keep a positive mindset always, no matter what the situation is.
Thoughts on the changes to physique over the past few years, like the look. Do you feel like,
Men's physique?
yeah, like I feel like the guys have kind of been getting bigger, bigger, and then it was sometime last year, or is it going into this year when they said that they're going to put weight caps even on men's physique, right? There's weight caps in physique now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was,
there's
for the
yeah.
pros.
Yeah, are you close to that weight cap? Do you have a lot of room to grow into it after you get NQ'd? Are you even worried about that right now, or are you just more so worried about the look because physique is more like a it's definitely one of the divisions that is you could be underweight from your weight cap by a bit, but if you have that illusion of, broad shoulders, tiny waist, you can get away with it.
Yeah. I'd say that I'm gonna be pretty close to the weight cap because I was already, I believe at UGP I was 175 or 180 maybe.
Okay.
Uh, and then I went to Texas after, so I believe I was 180. So now we're talking about, post second leg surgery, I'm gonna, grow all the size back on my leg. So I already know that muscle alone is gonna be another couple pounds.
Yeah.
But I want to bring better conditioning. So I would say I'm gonna be about 6, 7 pounds under the weight cap. I think
What is your weight cap? What do you got to be?
it'd be like 186 at men's
Okay.
physique for my height.
You're my height, right?
We're all the same height,
Yeah, yeah, 5'9".
Damn.
5'8".
Yeah.
It's light.
Yeah. So yeah, G will about 6 pounds more to grow,
Classic is
which
only a little bit more. It's like 190s, 190s, I think, like
Do you
192.
guys get 10 pounds when you go pro, like Classic does?
No, there's
there's no
no
weight cup in the amateur.
picture. There's no weight
yeah,
cut.
the weight cap for pros is the 186 for the height.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
But
so
I
you
want to
like,
be at that. Like, I want to be, on the
yeah, you
amateur.
don't want to be quite there yet because you don't want to be capped out yet. You still want to make
Exactly.
improvements. Like if I was already at the weight cap, that'd be a problem.
Yeah, that would
Yeah, dude, I
suck.
can't wait to go pro and get an off season, bro. I haven't had an off season since like 3.5 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. It's crazy. So
What's your weight cap? You said.
I got to be 202. That's why when you're saying 186, I'm like, God dang, like that's light.
Yeah, classic was hard for me because I remember when I did it in 2021, it was I had to be at 175. And dude, I couldn't even fill up to like the next day. Like it was
Yeah,
impossible. I was
I
flat.
got to, I get to be 202, and then once I go pro, I can be 212. So, you know, um, there's a possibility, so I'm shooting for junior nats. It's like 10 and a half weeks from now. What is it, April 9th? June 20th is the show. So a little over 2 months. If I look really good there and I get my pro card, I think there's like 6 to 8 weeks to Tampa Pro.
Yeah.
I'm considering going to Tampa Pro. And who knows if I'll win or not. I have 10 pounds in my weight cap and I'm going to be competing against people that are also going to probably be close to that weight cap. But, when you're coming back from a show, you're really anabolic. Obviously, I wouldn't want to spill over, but I'm talking about just not even really after the show, have some time off, just straight back into prep. And I'm talking like adding 50 calories a week. So you're just filling up more, but not putting on any fat. And coming to maybe if I can put on 5 to 6 pounds, then I'm only 3, 4 pounds under the stage weight for pros. And if I can come in like a diced version, a little bit more full, coming around 207, 208, and then I'm only 4-ish pounds below the cap, maybe I can do some damage. I mean, I don't know. That's something, honestly, I played with that idea in my head, but I didn't give it too much thought. And then it was actually John De La Rosa when I was talking to him the other day, he's like, dude, why don't you at least, I mean, focus on your first show. He's like, but if you get it, he's like, I'm going to Tampa Pro. Why don't you give it a shot? And like, it helped me a little bit mentally, and having someone believe in you. I think sometimes you try to avoid being cocky so bad that you don't want to be thinking about doing your first pro show before you even have the pro card. So right now in my head, it's bouncing it, but I think that'd be awesome to be able to go.
There's a lot of pros who, the first timers, they get their card and then they're like, I'm not ready for a pro show, and then they wait so long, and it's like, why would you wait to get that to see where you stack up? Like,
Yeah.
or at least have that experience. I guess I think maybe it's an ego thing because they're so used to winning their classes and everything. They don't want to know what it feels like to be at the bottom. But Like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with throwing your head in the mid? Like, is someone really gonna say you're a crappy athlete because you didn't win your first pro show? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why
I
people
think
get.
it depends the timing of the pro show, right? Like I think if you do the pro show right away to see where you stand, it's cool. I think it's also cool to take a year off because you want to grow, because you know you need 10 pounds and you're going to be dwarfed. Like at the same time, what's the point in going to a pro show if you already know you have no chance of even getting first or second call outs? You don't want to waste the money either. So I understand that. There's this weird like in between time frame, I think that it's like, okay, like you're not too close to when you got your pro card to where it's like, hey, I want to, see how close I am to looking how I should on the pro stage and get in front of the judges, just a month or two after I got my pro card. And it's not really, oh, I took a whole off season. Like in 3 or 4 months, I don't know how much changes you can really have going from, you know, uh, your amateur physique to your pro physique. And it's like if you're gonna, I feel like it's either trying to find a show with a pro show 1 to 2 months after you got your card, or just dedicate yourself to an off season. That weird in between time zone, I kind of feel like it's like you're not choosing one or the other. It's just the best of both worlds, you know? Because I know it's a little bit. I think bodybuilding it's wise to do that because I think a lot of these guys go they go and they get their pro card in bodybuilding, and there's weight divisions, and then once you go pro, right, isn't pro just but for bodybuilding? It's all just open. There's no divisions, right? So a lot of those guys need like they need a year or two to grow. So I
Yeah.
understand it for bodybuilding, and classic is like, okay, how big of a difference is 10 pounds going to make? And I think that's when it's individualistic. You got to look at how you carry your muscle, so and how lean you actually were. So
What do you think about the Pittsburgh Classic lineup? We got some crazy competition now.
dude,
I mean,
I don't know who's going because
so
I feel like almost more people have said they're doing it than not doing it. It's
you
crazy.
have Terrence Ruffin, who looks incredible.
Yeah, I've seen.
You
Yeah.
have Kayuki's first classic show, and he
Dude,
looks
he went to so when I was in
stupid.
Orlando, I worked out at Iron Religion, and I know one of my friends' name is Arthur. He worked out with this kid named Arthur who just turned pro last year at Universe or USA's, and he'd work out with him because they're both Brazilian. He looked insane, and this was last year. He looked like I was like, bro, this guy's doing classic. Like he think about like when you think of, I mean, I don't know if it was because he wears these wife beaters, and I don't know if he's just sizing down in them, but bro, his chest is like busting out the wife
I mean,
beater.
no,
I'm like, bro, is
he's
it the wife beater or is this guy's chest just that huge? Like, dude, he looks
he's big.
amazing.
Yeah,
Delts,
he's so 3D. And I would
yes.
say so. You have him. You have Anton, that young phenom
Yep.
who won Texas 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very
Uh,
young kid.
I mean, there's a handful of guys like they're just. It's interesting that C-Bum retired, and yet I actually think Classic's gonna be more interesting than ever. Like, no offense to C-Bum, we love watching him compete, but like, let's be real, we knew it was his show, and now everyone's coming out of the woodwork, and it's gonna be really exciting. Like with the younger guys coming up, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
a little bit like men's physique, where you're gonna start to have some competition to it.
I definitely think Terrence, and how do you say that guy's name, bro? I don't know how to say
Terrence
his name.
Ruffin.
No, not Terrence's name. The other guy. Is
Kaiki
it
or
Kaiki? Kaiki?
Yeah,
Kaiki. Well,
Kaique,
Kaiki?
it's
Okay.
Carlos de la Vera or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
Carlos.
Kaiki.
I'm just
It's just
calling
it's
him
just it's
Kaiki.
just his Insta tag that he goes by.
Yeah, I'm just calling him Kaiki, whatever.
And
But
then
he looks incredible. I'm trying to think of other pros that could potentially do Pittsburgh Pro that I think could give him a run for money. But I mean, uh, Wesley isn't doing it, right?
no, he's locked. He's turned it. I think he shut it down.
He
Okay.
shut it down. Yeah, he was supposed to shut it down and not even do Detroit, and he still did. Uh,
Logan's not doing it?
Actually, I think he is doing it. I think so. I'm not sure.
because that would
Let's
be.
let's look at
I'm trying to
the.
think who I think could beat either of those guys, and I think Terrence is going to be top three again this year, bro. Like
So
you want
this
to
is
talk about adding adjustments exactly where you're supposed to be? Yeah, I'm looking.
I'm just looking at like classic. Uh,
It's Nick Walker's posted every third post.
I mean, dude, Kaiki
Yeah,
just
he
he's got that.
everything about him almost looks open except his midsection, which is
Uh,
how it should be.
I I mean, he's just not as I guess bubbly and round as open. He's just a bit more
Yeah,
streamlined, but like he does have the dryness.
I
Um,
just I want to see his back. That's what I want to
Well,
see. But it looks like
his
it's there.
back was his weak part in men's physique.
Yeah. So I want to see what his back looks like, which you can't really see. I mean, the only thing poking out
yeah,
right there, like it's more
It
of
was his
from
back
his
and his
lat.
core that held him back in men's physique. So it'll be
Mm.
interesting to see how he looks in classic.
this is Josima.
I mean, he looks good, but I don't judge anyone on. I learned to not judge anyone in on Instagram anymore. Everyone looks like a pro on Instagram, and then you see him in real life, and you're like, oh, that's you. That's happened quite a few times.
Oh, for sure. I think who else we got
It's the
going?
anabolic lighting, you know.
The
You
anabolic
gotta
lighting.
you gotta let the lighting find you. You can't find the lighting.
Yeah, Terrence.
I'm more excited for that open.
Yeah, dude. I was gonna say, I think open. They got
Oh,
Quizzo. They have
I think Martin has that locked up.
No, Nick.
Nick's doing. I mean, okay. This might be a hot take.
G and I will never agree on this, but it's
Listen, this
okay.
might be a hot take. I think Quizzo, until he shows he can bring the conditioning he's supposed to, I don't think I can bet on him or anything. So I think Quizzo's got to come in more conditioned.
He's just missing like body parts too.
He's just like he don't. Man, I hate talking about people and then we're gonna put them on a podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like here we are
Yeah,
talking about people, and then one day if we turn pro, there could be people talking about us. You know, so I try to be kind.
That's the nature of the beast, though.
Look
That's
at
the
the
nature
end
of
of
the beast.
at the end of the day, this is subjective, right? We also, we can't always pick everyone as a winner. And it's not me saying that
Yeah,
Nick Walker's a bad bodybuilder. I think right now, I think Martin, if unless he screws up his peak, I think
yeah.
Martin is the favorite. I think that's fair to
Yeah,
say.
no, for sure. No, I was gonna say Crizzo. I think Crizzo, I don't get that same streamline, even though he's a bodybuilder and it's not as important as classic. Something about it, like individually, if I look at it, I'm like, okay, but then when I look him as like the sum of his parts, I'm like, something don't look right. It looks like a little bit Frankenstein-y, you know? So I don't really think he has what it takes to knock off Nick or um Martin. So, but yeah, I mean, Nick's taking so much time off, and I'm not saying to take a knock on him. I know a lot of people are knocking at for taking time off, but I think he's had real things happen to him, and uh, I think the times he's pulled out of the show, it was 100% understandable. It's not like there were some BS reasons, in my opinion. But
Right.
I think Nick's a little bit of a, yeah, this is the video I saw, and I went, whoa. But I think Nick is it's almost like a dark horse again, even though we know he's good. How good is he going to come back? You know, kind of like
Uh,
with Terrence, he's been off for a year.
I
How
mean,
good is
dude,
he going to come back? But
it's just
he's
his shape is just crazy. I mean,
the legs helped him so much. Getting his legs bigger has made his tiny waist seem even tinier. The only thing I'm worried about upon first glance when I look at him right now, it would be the midsection, his abs in the middle. You see it a little bit when he goes to suck in. I don't know if it's from the vacuum or not, but it does look a little weird when he does when he does a overhand ab and thigh. I don't know if that hole is going to be there.
his chest looked great. Like his
Yeah,
chest looks
everything
so full.
about him looks. Oh yeah, there he goes. Yeah, no, never mind. It's not even there, dude. He looks phenomenal. He looks phenomenal.
I
So,
got him winning classic this year in the Olympia.
do you know who he reminds me of in physique? He's like the classic version of Ben Quill. Like if you look at Ben Quill's core and his chest, it's pretty similar. Do you get what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah,
like a very like 3D like
where the
chest,
cut is on the chest is like
and the
almost
chest like he's
identical.
got
Yeah.
a he's gonna be a problem this year. He came
This
eighth
guy,
last year. Yeah, he came eighth last year, but
he looks really good.
yeah. But yeah,
I
no,
think when you get to that level of bodybuilding, bro, the difference between first and eighth place is this much. And that's when it comes down to the stupidest of things that happen on your prep. You
well,
know, did
let's
you
see.
put 400 grams of rice in your
By
bowl,
the
or
way,
did you?
I thought this was an incredible shot.
Who is that, bro? He's gonna go pro this year. Who is that?
I think you have that small waist, right? So like the more size, you're gonna add even more size to your legs and your arms and everything as you go, and you have the structure for it. So
Yeah, what I'm really so when I look at myself and know how I cut down, I think it's obvious. My upper, especially my front upper, is way ahead of everything else. My legs definitely aren't behind, but you can see there's more in my legs to lose. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that I'm not I'm posing in a way where I'm still showing off my sweep and I'm not creating too much of a thigh gap because I think a lot of people don't realize how much weight we hold in our legs, and when you diet and they really get dry, it's not just like this way that the leg gets smaller, but this way, right? So you might have to bring your feet in closer as you get closer to your show because I don't want a thigh gap, and you also still want to show off your sweep. So that's what I honestly, my upper, there isn't one part of my upper that I'm worried about. It's finally getting, and it's not even my quads dry enough. It's really my hamstrings and my glutes, making sure everything is in and making sure my upper body is. Oh, that was when I was 246. So that's not there. This was 13 weeks out. The gift that my friend left of Noel.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I think, I think, go.
Great.
Dude, actually at the end of 23 into 24, I came off. I was almost going to give up bodybuilding for 6 months. Look, that's how I started prep for the transformation picture. That's how I looked when I started prep for Type Hope. I was natural for 6 months and I thought I was giving up bodybuilding. And then I said, dude, what am I doing? I said, you gotta make the most of this. And I got back on and I did that the dates are on the picture from February, the end of January, beginning of February to 7/10, which was a week before the show.
I mean, look at your lat. You can still see you had the size. It's just you weren't as hard.
I mean, it's
Like
also
it,
a crappy pick, you know what I'm
Hey, you
saying?
look
Like I
like
took that
yeah,
in the
you
morning,
look like
like
you weren't even
yeah,
working
you
out.
know how people do the transformation pictures.
yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, I think you're gonna do well, man. I think you just stay healthy, play the long game and
yeah.
and don't be in a rush. But at the same time, like you want to get it done, right? So handle your business, get that card, and
So I don't like talking about plan Bs, but worst case scenario, I go to junior nats and I don't get it. 2 weeks later is universe. If I don't get it at universe, 3 weeks later is USA's.
hey,
So
look, here's the thing though, and we kind of brushed on the subject in the gym a little bit, but this is a very unique sport, and I think there's a difference between being not being confident, but then also being realistic and confident at the same time. So like you saying at the end of the day, there's a lot of great athletes out there in the world, and you just don't know who's going to show up. You come at your best, still look the part, like you deserve to win that show, and maybe it's not your day. Like I could go into a show, look incredible, then G shows up, right? And it's like, well, do I look bad? Is it did I not make the improvements? No, it's just so I think
where
your
you're at
mind
in the journey is two
your
completely
mindset's like,
separate.
hey, look, I'm gonna get my card this year. Plans to get it right away, but like if it doesn't happen right away, it's gonna happen. It just might not happen when I wanted it to, but it's
Yeah.
fine. And that's not you not being confident, that's just you being realistic.
I will say this though. I've been an amateur for so long and I've seen even people go to shows where they should have also gotten their pro card already, and that's the show they finally do it. Like that should be me. Like, when there's people that go to a national show and they're worried about, or even an NQ show, and they're like, man, it's South Florida. You never know who's going to show up. Some future Ronnie Coleman. Like in my head, like right now, I'm like, that freak that everyone's worried about showing up, it's me.
Yeah,
I'm,
you're the protagonist.
yeah, at least in my head right now. And I try to not to let it make me cocky or arrogant, but I got to realize, like, I think it's a balance of being humble, but also you like, I'm that guy, you
You're
know?
holding yourself.
And it's not because I'm that guy because I'm that guy. I'm that guy because of the characteristics I've built, my relationship with God, and that's pretty much it. And that's why I'm going to get it is because I have a strong foundation. I know who I am. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses through trial and error. And I don't know, things are just lining up right now. It's hard to explain when you're in a zone and you're in a groove, but things are just, dude, when I tell you prep isn't hard yet, it's not hard yet. And I know it shouldn't really be at 10 weeks out, but I mean, there has been, I think actually, I say that last night I couldn't sleep because the hunger was getting bad. And I actually ended up having a high day today, but still, but that's not really the hard part of prep. The hard part of prep is like when you're trying to do work on your computer and then you just end up staring at your computer like this and you're like sleeping,
Yeah.
but your eyes are open and then you start going like this and you're like, what was I doing? And you can't
Wait,
even remember
so
what you're
I
doing.
have to ask, like being in the corporate world, like it is
Bro.
a very interesting experience being in prep and having a do
Yeah,
you
dude.
and it's like you never feel more like an alien to the outside world than when you're in prep because I'm looking at people and they're like they don't understand, nor
Yeah.
should they understand what I'm going through. But I'm also like I don't even have the energy to explain it to this person right now. But like that's actually why it felt good to tell them that I bodybuild so that when it happens, it's like all I have to say is, yeah, I'm in prep and I don't need to explain it.
Yeah,
It's like
dude, it's like, oh my God. And like when I'm talking to people, dude, I turn my webcam off. So a lot of my conference calls, you're supposed to have your webcam off. I notice when I'm on prep, I turn my webcam off more because you can see my facial expressions like a book. Like before I say something, you can see what I'm about to say just by looking at my face. Dude, and there's so many times where like, dude, my schedule's so busy on prep, man. You're doing cardio in the morning, you got your meals, you got, I don't know if you're doing stretching and posing, you got your workout, like you're trying to sleep, you're tired. Yeah, and these people get on these conference calls and they're 30 minutes and we're 15 minutes over the 30-minute time limit. And they're just talking about their plans for the weekend. And it's like, I'm a nice guy, but like, bro, I don't really care what you're doing this weekend, man. I gotta go eat a meal. I want to get back to work and get my stuff done for the day because it takes me like 3 times as long because I'm like mentally retarded right now and I got no carbs. You know what I'm
Prep
saying?
brain, yeah.
So yeah, bro,
Gotta
it
use
gets
my
it gets
energy
brutal.
wisely.
Do you
speaking of
drop
energy,
random things when you're on prep? Like you'll go pick it up and you like it's in your hand already, but then like you
It's
just go
just
to put
like
your hand and then all of a sudden you just drop it. And then it's like you go to pick it up and dude, you drop it like 3 times and
Jet lag.
you're like, dude, what is like I'm like glitching in real life though.
glitching.
speaking of energy, I think Chris is about to fall asleep sitting up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
because Chris, you're about what are you exactly the same timeout as
Yeah, because
Ant?
Chiseled and Junior Nationals are on the same day. And then,
Yeah,
God willing, I'll be going to Universe as well.
he will be for
Yeah, we're
sure.
So
Hey man, if you ever need when cardio starts getting high and you can't lift and do cardio at the same time, if you're ever gonna do cardio in the morning, let me know.
oh, I'm usually an early
All
bird for
right.
cardio. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm there
Yeah,
like
let me know because I am not, and it would help me go get it done early.
I got you, bro.
Yeah.
I got you.
Well, listen, Christian, it's been awesome having you on, and we'll want you back, I'm sure, in the future.
Thank you
And
guys. No,
just
I
to
appreciate it.
hear how things change over time for you, like once you get your
Yeah,
card and but you obviously have a bright future in the sport. And this has
appreciate it.
probably been one of the more unique episodes we've had because a lot of it we didn't even talk about bodybuilding. And I think that's what a lot of the non-bodybuilders out there have to understand that the sport has a lot to offer, and it's not just about throwing weights around and
We're
creatine.
not just
It's
meatheads.
it's we can think too and have opinions and think about the
Yeah,
world.
yeah. I think a lot of the things I've said apply to life, but a lot of them are learned in the gym. It's not just about lifting weights, talk about discipline, motivation, community, just those things that we touched upon. That's all built in the gym. You see a career you want, a lot of the same principles that it takes to build a physique is what it takes to build a career. It takes to build a family. It takes to have a healthy relationship. A lot of the things that these people crave in life not glorify or idolize the gym, but a lot of it is applicable and they're lessons that you do learn in the gym when you take it seriously, at least.
Everything you want is on the other side of hard.
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Pause. No homo.
Hey, Christian,
He
I do,
said pause.
pause. I do got one question though. I mean, being in tech, do you see like somewhere down your journey, like maybe down the line, that you could make tech and bodybuilding and like do something with it, like build something from that
Wait, bodybuilding and what? Is it
tech?
bodybuilding and make it into something bigger or what?
Well, with your career in tech.
Um, I haven't thought about that much later. I have thought about faith and fitness though.
Yeah.
I've also thought about my own podcast, in a way of calling it like Bibles and Barbells or like Bros and Bibles or something like that. But that's the main thing is what it would be really cool for me was what I would like to do would be more so overlapping faith and fitness in a church, whether it is a church I'm a part of and I'm just a main donator, investor for, and then I end up like running it and opening it. But it would be dope to have like a church, but also like
A gym
a
and
gym, but also
combine them together.
like you could go
Yeah.
there and not only is it the church, but a gym is attached to it. And also mental health counseling is there. Regular mental health counseling, but also Christian mental, because there's therapists who are just completely like PhD based, and there's therapists who are
All right,
also
faith base.
PhD
Yeah.
and they're faith based, right? And it would be awesome to open both those options. And it could be like a one-stop shop for you to go and just be with other people with similar values, morals, beliefs, whether you're a believer or non-believer, you're welcome there. We can work
100%.
out. You can go to, you can there's church held here. If you're going through something, you can go there for professional counseling, like as in your career. You can go there for whatever you're struggling with, or you have a bad breakup, you're going through depression, you just got back from the army and you have PTSD, you need someone to talk to. You're going through relationship struggles in your marriage, and how can I be guided based off of whether, you're guided by Christ or not? And, the gym, and it would be an area for physical, spiritual, and mental benefit. And that type of facility would, that's like
Let,
it's something I prayed
let's
about,
talk
and it's
about
in,
that. Let's talk about. I want to sit down with you and talk about that because I had this
yeah.
idea for a gym as well,
Yeah, that
along
that
the
would
same
be
lines.
that would be awesome. So I just think it's getting investors for it and the capital, because at the same time as when you execute on an idea, you don't want to marginalize the idea down so far just to say you got it done. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like if I were to do it, I'd want to do it right, even if it took longer. Like I don't want to open up a church and a gym, but I did it with so little capital and so quickly without the right, but like X, Y, and Z that, well, now it's not a good gym and it's not
There's
a
a lot
good
of
church.
variables. Yeah, there's a
No,
lot of
but there's not a
variables.
good gym or a good church, so who's going to come to it? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I don't even mean that from a profitable business perspective, but if the heart posture behind that decision is to change lives, are you really building something that's going to make people want to come and change their life?
I
Right.
mean, it says that the church is in you, right? So wherever you
Yeah.
go, you could bring
Amen.
the church there.
Good
So
point.
as long as you have that faith base,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's very realistic that you could tie everything together
Yeah.
and,
And
you
it's
know,
crazy. Actually, my pastor up in Orlando posted how this was the 18th year of him in ministry. And he posted day one. He posted year one, two, like he posted all these slides. And like, bro, he started, I think, in his garage or like in his living room. And now
and
he's
that's how it
at,
starts.
and
That's how
now my
business,
church in
yeah.
Orlando has two locations in Orlando, location in Tampa, and one in Gainesville. And they have to have four services at the main location in Orlando because of how much it's grown. And it's kind of just going off what you said. You're right. Maybe you do start small and you put it in God's hands and let it grow. You never know. Maybe
The faith of a mustard seed, right?
exactly.
That's
So,
all you need.
is he going to bless you with a lot before he sees how you handle a little? You know.
Yeah.
So,
We'll
but
we'll definitely talk about that.
we'll
That's
talk.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you got my number, but G and Alex got my number, so you can get it from
No,
them.
we
Yeah.
have our group chat.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah, you got my number then. All right.
Yeah.
Got you,
appreciate
brother.
it,
So,
Christian.
hey man, well we're gonna be supporting you,
Appreciate
and
it.
you have us behind you. And if you need anything, you reach out. But it's a beautiful thing having people from all different backgrounds and different beliefs come together and support each other. I think I give a lot of credit to John De La Rosa for building Fitness System because
Yeah.
I know it's a franchise, but that specific location, like the people that go there, the staff, the athletes, it's just a completely different vibe. I've been to a bazillion gyms around the world, and
You gotta give shout out to
nothing
Sean and Holly
compares.
too. Sean
Yeah.
does a lot too to keep in that gym. I mean, he comes in there to get his own lift in, but you can see the wheels spinning of what's where, is it clean? I mean, one of the things that we probably take for granted is how clean that gym is.
Yeah.
The weights go back where they're supposed to. Like that's
Oh my
rare.
God. Yo, so that to me is like I know when I'm really rushed. I mean, I go to LHP 300 sometimes, but amped if I have to, and there's
Yeah.
like I don't want to go to amped, but like
Yeah.
it's 5 minute walk from my house. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I went yesterday and to our I admit it, I was getting frustrated with people
That's
internally,
fine.
but it's like, the weights were all over the place and
Oh,
it
that
was
would piss
just
me
like
off too,
and
bro.
and,
That would
and I
piss
was
me
just and I was just like, and I was thinking maybe I'm spoiled because of fitness system. But then I'm
off.
like, no, it's just everyone doing their job, which is you lift the weight, you rack it, you unrack
Yeah.
it, move on. And I'm looking for a like a 25 or 45 pound weight, like it's literally gold in a gold rush, and I'm just I'm
Yeah.
searching around. It's like going back to college days where you needed
Dude,
quarters for laundry, and I'm
I
just
know.
like a quarter's like gold, and I'm just trying to find a freaking 25 pound plate here.
Damn. LA Fitness PTSD from LA Fitness and all
Yeah,
those
LA Fitness is
corporate
dope.
gyms.
All right, boys, I gotta sign out.
All
Yeah.
right. Yo, it was
All right,
good talking to
boys.
you. Thanks for having me on, Alex.
Of
Yeah.
course,
And
anytime.
everyone else
Uh,
too.
Appreciate you,
I
Christian.
I brothers. Be safe, man.
See
We'll
ya.
talk.
All right. Bye, bro.